Morning. Welcome to the King's Report News Hour for let's see, this is the 19th day, I believe now, the eighth month by the heavenly calendar, or is it the 18th day? I better check. But anyway, it's somewhere around there. Tomato sitting in for the second king of Changyuk, and I'm a little bit discombobulated today because, I'm sorry, it's the 18th day, isn't it? All right. Because we don't have a tech team, and we will not have a tech team for the next few broadcasts. This is related to the event that is going on in Pennsylvania this coming weekend, so please understand. I'm sure everyone watching this will know what I'm referring to. Let's see. Yeah, okay, I think we're getting through. I'm pretty sure we're getting through. Yes. All right. All right, so let's take our usual trip around the kingdom. And right now in Chongpyeong, Tennessee, it is 52 degrees and clear. Mostly sunny today and 71. Tonight clear with a low of 47. Let's see what it's going to be like during the festival this weekend. You know, they always say that there's always one day where the weather is terrible, but looks like this is going to be the exception. I see Friday high of 70, low of 45, clear, 2% chance of rain. Saturday 71, high 46, low, clear, and 1% chance of rain. Sunday 72 degrees high, 44, 5% chance. Is that five? Yes, that's a 5% chance of rain. So it looks like this year is going to be the exception. One of the reasons we wanted to move it inside was because every year it seemed that either Saturday or Sunday, one of those 2 days was terrible weather, rainy, cold, you know. So, but anyway, so that's the way it works out. Okay. Um, I'm sorry, that's Tennessee, isn't it? We have to check the Pennsylvania weather. Let's see what's out of Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, same. Oh, yeah, okay. Well, Sunday. Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. All right. 91% chance of rain on Sunday. Sure enough. All right. Spoke too soon. 91% chance of rain on Sunday. Sure enough. Yeah, okay. 25% chance on Saturday. Well, I guess it was a good idea to have it inside after all. Okay. All right. So let's see. Let's look at father's hometown of Cheongju, North Pyongan province, in what is today North Korea. Right now, mostly cloudy, 52 degrees. It's raining for at least 60 minutes. And today, rain, or tonight, I'm sorry, rain and low of 52. Tomorrow, periods of rain, high of 61. And then, as I said, at the Cheongguk Palace, right now 41 and clear, 60 for a high today, breezy this morning, otherwise plenty of sunshine, feeling more like fall. Tonight, clear and cold, there will be a freeze tonight, low of 30 degrees. And tropical rainstorm will affect the area Sunday night. And then in, let's see, Liberty Rock RV Park and Campground in Limestone County, Texas, currently 69 and clear. And let's see, sunshine and warm, high of 89. Tonight, clear, low of 61. And at the Suncheon Palace in Korea, 72 right now, and mostly cloudy. Clear and low of 60 tonight, pleasant with plenty of sunshine tomorrow, high of 79. And then at the Gunma Palaces in Japan, 61 degrees right now, mostly cloudy, partly cloudy through the night, and 54 for a low, partly sunny and pleasant, high of 74. And at the Ilan property in Taiwan, currently 84 and clear. Yeah, you know, it's downright comfortable now. I mean, and then it says here an evening shower in the area, otherwise mostly cloudy, low of 74. Tomorrow, intervals of clouds and sunshine, hot, humid, and a high of 92. Yes, but even the hot and humid doesn't seem quite as hot or humid as it has been the last several weeks. It's actually bearable. Yes. All right, and then let's look at then Father's Word. Let's go to the Cheonseonggyeong, and let's see here. Let's go to the human life. or life of human beings and the world of the spirit, of the eternal spirit. I'm in chapter 3, uh, and let's see, I think we've done this paragraph before, the one that says if there's no country, you cannot register. I'm pretty sure we've done that before. Okay, so let's choose something else on the same page. Well, okay, well, this one, yeah. See, the day of blessing, uh, in the day of blessing, there must be the church blessing, the nation and the nation's blessing, the world blessing, um, and you must also have the eternal, eternal blessing ceremony in the kingdom of heaven, and that is the only way that you can enter into the origin, the world of the original ideal, world of the original ideal. So you need to be aware of that. So it looks like we're not finished, right? We're not finished. So um, we'll work it out when we get there, right? We'll figure it out. Don't worry. So just because you receive the blessing of the Unification Church, um, very simply and very conveniently and very easily, uh, and you receive the blessing without the Father knowing about it, that's not going to pass. That's not going to work. It's not going to be enough. That will not be recognized. That 안통합니다 means that's not going to, well, that's not going to be satisfactory. You must go through the national blessing, nation's blessing. So, and when you do, then your entire history will be there. And then after that, you have to go through the blessing of the world. And then 대입회식토부로 가지고 그래서 천상에 가가지고 and then when you go to heaven or to the spirit world 대입회식과 더불어 입적식을 가져 대입회식을 so I guess 대입회 should be a sort of a large sort of an entry ceremony, I guess, and then there'll be a registration ceremony, and the formation of 12 tribes will be completed, and then centering on God, um, the true parents will be there, and only then we'll be able to have a place where you can stand, where you can sit, and people will be assigned to places in order, and in sort of in a certain order. And what order he doesn't say there, but could be the order in which you enter the spirit world. It could be the order in which, well, anyway, in order. Okay. All right. So let's see what is happening right now, and it appears that President Trump has successfully negotiated this uh, prisoner exchange anyway, or exchange of prisoners with, shall we say, hostages for criminals. And it looks like so he's saying anyway that this is going to happen very quickly. And let's take a look at that. So Netanyahu apparently is going to have a meeting of his cabinet on Monday in order to sign off on this. So I don't think it's actually official until that happens. But President Trump is saying that Israel and Hamas has signed off on the Gaza deal, phase one. This means that all of the hostages will be released very soon, and Israel will withdraw their troops to an agreed upon line as the first steps toward a strong, durable, and everlasting peace. Everlasting is a pretty strong word in the Middle East. Yeah. President Trump wrote Wednesday on the social media platform Truth Social, all parties will be treated fairly, it says. And it says here Israel expects hostage releases to begin Saturday. Netanyahu to convene government Thursday, I'm sorry, not Monday, but Thursday to approve the ceasefire. And Bibi and Trump hailed truce as a historical achievement historic achievement, and 55,000 Gazans under 5 may be acutely malnourished, according to the United Nations. All right, let's take a look at this main story here. And here, this is Rubio whispering to Trump during a roundtable meeting on Antifa. The note reportedly involved major progress on the pursuit of a Gaza peace deal. Okay, Israel and Hamas have agreed to the first phase of his peace plan to pause fighting and release at least some hostages and prisoners, U.S. President Donald Trump said Wednesday. This means that all of the hostages will be released very soon, and Israel will withdraw their troops to an agreed upon line as the first steps toward a strong, durable, and everlasting peace. Trump wrote, all parties will be treated fairly. So in the Middle East, whenever you see the word will be, you got to say, okay, we'll see, because the future is very hard to predict in the Middle East. We'll see what happens. Negotiators have been meeting in Egypt for days to hash out Trump-backed peace plan that he hopes will ultimately result in a permanent end to the 2-year war and bring about a sustainable peace in the region. The initial agreement was confirmed by Israeli officials and Hamas, as well as mediator Qatar. It was not immediately clear whether the parties had made any progress on thornier questions about the future of the conflict, including whether Hamas will demilitarize, as Trump has demanded, and eventual governance of the war-torn territory. So, yeah, this is what I've been saying, right? That I've been saying that Hamas is not going to give up power, not going to give up governance, and of course, their military is what allows them to stay in power. So they're not going to demilitarize either. But we'll see. President Trump seems to be optimistic. Um, but I guess, getting the hostages out, that would be something, even though it is in exchange with, what is it? Well, we had about 2,000 prisoners being held in Israel, going to be sent over for, 48 live and dead hostages. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said on social media, with God's help, we will bring them all home. And we know how the war began. Netanyahu's supporters have backed the sustained attack as a necessary response. Okay. And Gaza authorities say more than 67,000 people. But this is the Hamas health authorities, right? So I've explained about that before. And okay. Early Wednesday, Trump said that he might travel this weekend to Egypt, where his envoys were in talks to try to seal the ceasefire and hostage release agreement. And Trump has emerged in recent months as chief architect behind the new U.S. brokered plan aimed at ending the Gaza war. And I think it wasn't Hillary Clinton who said that, yeah, if he can pull off an actual durable peace, then he does deserve the Nobel Peace Prize, I think she said. Yeah, we'll see what the Nobel Committee thinks about that. According to Reuters and the Washington Post, the initial stage calls for an immediate ceasefire and release of Israeli hostages held in Gaza, a partial withdrawal of Israeli forces, and international oversight of humanitarian aid. Trump formally unveiled the proposal at a late September White House press conference. The Times of Israel reported that Trump's plan, developed over several months by U.S., Israeli, Egyptian, and Qatari negotiators, lays out 20 specific steps leading to Gaza's eventual demilitarization and the creation of a transnational governing authority backed by regional partners. That sounds very complicated. And the more complicated it is, the more difficult it's going to be to maintain. All right. Transnational governing authority backed by regional partners. Boy, that sounds very complicated. Trump's personal imprint on the process has been unmistakable. As Politico noted, he has repeatedly intervened to keep talks on track and enforce his deadlines, and there have been reports he may take a leading role within that transnational governing authority. He has pressed both sides to agree to his timeline, ordered temporary pauses in Israeli bombardments to facilitate hostage exchanges, and warned that U.S. support will depend on compliance with the peace plan's terms. Trump's Middle East envoy, real estate executive Steve Witkoff, has been shuttling between Cairo, Doha, and Tel Aviv to finalize implementation details, according to AP News, with Israel and Hamas now having signed off, in quotes. It's those quotes that you got to worry about. On the first stage, attention is turning to whether the ceasefire holds and whether Trump's self described deal of the century, part two, can withstand the region's volatility long enough to deliver a lasting peace. Right. So, yes, well, this is not going to be a long term solution. Um, Hamas is still committed to destroying Israel. Right now, they don't have the means to do that because the IDF has destroyed their weapons and also their leadership. But soon as they are able to rearm and regroup and put new leaders in place, I'm sure they'll be back to their old tricks. The only long-term solution is going to be father's solution, and that is the international intercultural marriage, blessing marriage that has to take place for this to be resolved in the long term. There is no other solution, but that has always been father's solution for every international conflict. Of course, he started with the conflict between Korea and Japan, but he was always, matching people from countries that were historically enemies. Not that the husband and wife, the bride and groom and bride involved are going to be treating each other as an enemy, but that they have ancestors and that were enemies that were at each other's throats. And one of the strengths the of our father's teaching is that it teaches clearly about the spirit world and the problems in the spirit world. Because when we pass into the spirit world, when we shed our physical bodies and pass into the spirit world, we take most of our problems with us. When I say most of, so if you have some pain from various injuries and stuff like that, then that pain may pass away, probably will pass away. But any sort of problems of the heart, of the spirit, right? Those are problems of the spirit, and those you're going to take with you. So that is why we need to complete our character while we are in the physical world, so we don't have such problems, so that we are able to um, um, breathe love in the spirit world as we breathe air here. So the problems that exist between Israel and Palestinians today go back thousands of years, and the people who were participants in those problems in the past, they are all existing. I won't say alive, but because to be alive, you have to be connected with God, the source of life. But they all exist in one way or another in the spirit world, and they still have these problems, and those problems have to be resolved, and that can only be done through love, and the love between husband and wife, and the love in the family. And so that is why Father's solution is the only long-term solution. That is the only everlasting solution that is actually going to be everlasting. Okay, President Trump, I love you, and you're great, but your everlasting peace needs to connect with Father's everlasting solution in order for it to be actually everlasting. If you get my drift, okay, okay. Anyway, congratulations to President Trump for doing doing what he has done, and we will continue to pray that God's will be done here, and we'll see what happens there. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Let's look at here. Israel expects hostage releases to begin Saturday. Okay, and Bibi and Trump hailed it. All right. So, okay. 55,000 Gazans under 5. All right. So, okay. All right. So we will see what happens with all that. Okay. All right. And before I forget, just to, I guess, remind you of Hak Chan's situation. Right now, it is Thursday evening here in this part of the world, in Asia, in East Asia. And in Korea, they are just now finishing up their sort of string of holidays. Tomorrow will be the first day back to work, and Korean media is expecting strongly that Hak Chan will be indicted tomorrow, and they are also expecting strongly that her incarceration will continue while she's under indictment. So by this time tomorrow, we should know whether that is true or not. By this time tomorrow, I expect, or Korean media is expecting, that the indictment will have been issued, and uh, the court will have placed her, will have said, okay, well, she has to stay in jail while uh, the trial goes on, and so we'll see how that goes. But so it's going to be, they say, people say months, but realistically speaking, okay, I think um, she needs to be she needs to be considering the possibility that she will spend the rest of her life behind bars. I think the only way that she's going to get out will be when she is appears to be on the edge of death. They may let her out at that time, I suppose. But remember, I'm the one who said that I can't imagine them putting an 83-year-old grandmother who is not well in prison, and I was wrong. She's there. That's where she is. And frankly, it's, um, I would say largely her her doing, because you don't blow off subpoenas like that. She says, "Oh, I'm sick," but yeah, I understand, but still, you don't blow off three subpoenas in a row and expect the court to go leniently on you. And even in jail, she's now saying, "Hey, I'm not gonna respond to any more subpoenas. No, you cannot. I don't care." Basically, she's sort of in a position now where she's saying, well, she's sort of giving the middle finger to the prosecution and to the court, and that's not a good way to deal with the situation. I'm sure that's not the strategy that is being recommended to her by her lawyers. Anyway, we'll see what happens with all this. I've noticed that a number of groups now within the Family Federation are sort of making statements, blaming each other for what is going on. And I even saw one today that was sent to me by Sammy Park, who says that his name is Moon Kyung-jin. Yeah, that's what he says his name is, and that could be true. And I don't know the authenticity of that message, but it's possible. I don't know. So we'll see how this develops. But as I've been saying, the media is treating this as the downfall of the Unification Church, but the folks in Chungpyeong, Korea, have no claim to the brand of Unification Church. Unification Church describes a faith community that is centered on True Father Sun Myung Moon and follows his teachings. And that does not describe the faith community in Chungpyeong, Tennessee. Chungpyeong, Korea, I'm sorry. It does describe the faith community in Chungpyeong, Tennessee, but not the one in Chungpyeong, Korea. So they actually have no claim to the brand of a Unification Church, whereas we do. We do, because we are, in fact, a faith community centered on True Father Sun Myung Moon, and we do, in fact, follow the teachings of a True Father. All right. So anyway, to get that out of the way, and we'll confirm or deny that tomorrow at this time. All right, let's see here. Bill to pay military probably will happen, President Trump says, but Johnson says something different, right? Speaker Johnson, no separate vote for military pay. So the two are saying something appears to be diametrically opposite. Apparently, Speaker Johnson wants to use the military pay issue as leverage, whereas President Trump, I think, is uh, sympathetic to the plight of the military. Let's see what's going on here. Um, says, uh, yeah, that probably will happen. Well, even though House Speaker Mike Johnson said he wouldn't call for such a vote, Trump says, yeah, that probably will happen. We don't have to worry about it yet. That's a long time. Okay. All right. About 1.3 million active duty military will start missing paychecks if Congress does not pass a bill or the shutdown does not end by October 15th. So that's about 6 days from now. Earlier, Johnson told reporters he won't call a separate vote because the House already had that vote in the continuing resolution and suggested it's now up to Senate Democrats to get to work. Of course, we want to pay our troops and our air traffic controllers and our Border Patrol agents and TSA and everybody else, Johnson said. We did have that vote in the House. Johnson has held a series of briefings in which he has attacked Democrats for failing to approve a clean stopgap funding measure to keep the government open while negotiations on federal spending continue. Okay, well, all right. But, I really do need to get that pay to the military, that's for sure. One sure way to bring about the fall of an empire, or a nation for that matter, is to stop paying your military. Because then the people in the military are not going to put their lives on the line for no pay. Yeah, it doesn't. They don't. They're all good people, or but they don't want to go that far. And Canada Prime Minister talked reviving the Keystone XL pipeline with President Trump. This is something that Biden put a stop to, and that's probably important for Canada and also for the United States. Okay. And so maybe using the Insurrection Act, I guess this is going to be in Portland, is that right? Um, Including how and when the 19th century law might be used. Not just in Portland, I guess LA, Chicago, and Portland most acutely. That's what's uh, happening in Portland is pure insurrection. If you take a look at what's been going on in Portland, it's been going on for a long time, and that's insurrection. That's pure insurrection, Trump said. Trump has previously deployed National Guard troops to LA and Washington, but those deployments were limited, support only roles. Let's see here. But Trump's advisors broadly agree the measures should be used only after all other options have been exhausted, according to the report. In the 50s and 60s, Presidents Dwight D. Eisenhower, John F. Kennedy, and Lyndon B. Johnson invoked the act to safeguard activists and enforce desegregation orders. It was most recently used in 1992 when California Governor Pete Wilson requested federal troops to quell the Los Angeles riots. Right. That was the ones I think famous for the rooftop Koreans. Right. Okay. So we'll see how that goes. But America seems to be going in a very bad direction right now. And in the past, the invoking the Insurrection Act kind of put a stop to the sort of the slide down the slope to total chaos. But this time, I don't know if that's going to be enough. Um, and we will have to see how that works out. We hope that. Well, we always want things to go in a good way, but mm, well, we'll see what happens, right? But I said before the election that I was expecting more and more social uh, upheaval, and that's certainly what we're seeing. And right now, that's one of the areas where I was, in fact, right. I'm not always wrong. Sometimes I'm right, and this is one of the areas where, unfortunately, I have been right. Excuse me while I take some water. And right now, it's in the large cities, the Democrat-controlled cities. Um, it seems to be where it's limited right now, but well, let's hope that it doesn't spread to other areas as well. Okay. All right, let's see here. Then let's go to, oh, yes. Um, Taiwan has issued a report today about its situation. Let's take a look at that. Let me show you the headline. Okay. Here. Taiwan Defense Report warns of increased threat from China. And China is continuing to increase its threats. Um, and I still think that their plan A is to use these threats as a way of convincing the people of Taiwan that they'd be better off just, opening the gates and allowing China to take over the island or take over the Taiwan territory. Um, this is one way. So they're doing a sort of a carrot and stick, right? So the stick is the increasing military threats, and the carrot is the propaganda saying, "Oh, don't you want to be a part of the motherland? And what are you doing over there all by yourself? And we'll all be happier if you guys join us and we can work together for the greatness of the Chinese ethnic group and that kind of thing." So that's sort of the carrot. And but here we have the stick. China is increasing the frequency of its military activities around Taiwan and developing new equipment to hone its abilities to attack, the island's defense ministry said in a report released on Thursday. China is using hybrid warfare to weaken people's trust in Taiwan government and support for defense spending, and has been using AI tools to scan weak points in Taiwan's critical infrastructure, the once every 2 years report said. So this is it. To So they are trying to weaken people's trust in Taiwan government and weaken support for defense spending. And right now, that's exactly what's happening, where the government would like to spend more for defense, but the legislature, which is controlled by a, uh, I don't know if pro China is right, but at least China friendly party, the Kuomintang, is preventing the government from spending as much as they would like on defense. Right? Seems kind of strange, doesn't it? I mean, if you're in Taiwan situation with more and more the stronger and stronger military threat, you would think that you would want to spend more and more on defense. But this the China friendly party is saying no, 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 no. We don't want to exacerbate the situation. We don't want to give China more reasons to threaten us. This kind of thing. So we will see. I would. Uh, mm, Recently, there was one. I was observing one conversation where a Taiwanese man, I suppose probably in his 50s, 60s, somewhere around there, was talking about his experience in the military, which may have been a little while ago. And he was saying that when he was in the military, his commanding officer said that if the Chinese attack, what do? You hold up your hands. That's literally what he was telling us. It's not a good situation. Not a good situation. Right. But we'll see. But if I keep emphasizing that if China attacks Taiwan militarily, they will face sanctions from the United States, if not actual, weapons and military force from the United States, at least sanctions. And perhaps for that reason, China seems to be buying all the gold that they can get their hands on and building up their supply of gold and not holding it in the New York Fed, but actually keeping it in their own hands. So things seem to be going in that direction, but I don't know. We will see. We'll see. Okay. And let's see here. There's another China story. Satellites capture Chinese aircraft carriers at South China Sea Naval Base. Let's take a look at this. Here, two of China's aircraft carriers are back at their home port in Sanya, Hainan, after departing last week to escape adverse weather conditions brought by a typhoon. Satellite satellite imagery confirms. So let me just show you where Hainan Island is. Let's see here. Let's get a Google map on that. All right. This looks like it's good enough here. Okay. So, all right. So, okay. There we go. Okay. So you can see, let me make sure you can see this by stopping sharing and then sharing again, just in case. Just in case. Okay. So this is Hainan Island here, and it's kind of the Hawaii of China, but they also have a big naval base here, and you can see why this is Vietnam over here, just across the strait, and Philippines and Taiwan up here. Okay. So the aircraft carriers are back at their base here on Hainan Island. All right. So, okay. So that's what's, and so why it matters, China claims dominion over most of the South China Sea, a conduit for roughly one-fifth of global maritime trade in an area also claimed by several of its neighbors. An international arbitral court largely dismissed Beijing's sweeping claims in 2016, a ruling China maintains is invalid. So they just say, we don't care. And China's flat tops are a key component of the country's effort to supplant the United States as the dominant military power in the Indo-Pacific. Yulin military complex, located on the southern island province of Hainan, is central to the ambition and serves as a key naval hub, home to a carrier dry dock, two deep water bays, and the ballistic missile submarine base. Yulin's proximity to the Philippines, Vietnam, and other countries with rival territorial claims would facilitate the rapid deployment of naval and air power to a South China Sea flashpoint. And here, this, I guess, is the base that we're looking at here. I guess it's okay. So we got one aircraft carrier there and another one there, it looks like. So satellite imagery captured Wednesday shows the CNS Shandong moored across from the next generation Fujian at Yulin Pier. Both ships had departed their home ports on October 3, ahead of Typhoon Matmo, which battered southern China and forced the evacuation of around 350,000 people. So one of these, I think it's the Shandong, was actually an aircraft carrier that was purchased from one of the former Soviet countries. I've forgotten which one now. But anyway, it was sent to China to be scrapped. But then once China got it and saw it, they said, "Well, why scrap this? Let's refurbish it and use it as our own." And so that's what that is. So it's a very old um, aircraft carrier. And then the newer one, which I think is the Fujian, it was actually built from scratch by China itself. So they've learned how to do that, but they're uh, still quite inferior to the U.S. Aircraft carriers. Um, the quick, safe return to base is a key indicator of the People's Liberation Army Navy high operational tempo and typhoon evasion protocols. This one guy wrote on X, the Fujian has been undergoing testing and training in the South China Sea since mid-September after leaving Shanghai, where it was built, and completing a subsequent transit through the Taiwan Strait. The yet to be commissioned Fujian is the largest and most advanced of China's three aircraft carriers. Oh, they got three now. Okay, I'm sorry. So I guess, oh yeah, the Liaoning is the first one. Okay, that was the one that they refitted from a former Soviet vessel. Okay. And the Shandong was largely modeled on the first one, the Liaoning that they bought and decided not to scrap. Okay. All right. And Fujian, they say, has achieved a breakthrough after successfully completing its first flight operations using the electromagnetic catapult system. Okay. We'll see how that, but all that, of course, affects uh, the South China Sea and also the Taiwan Strait. and we will see how this develops. This is part of China's effort to become capable of invading Taiwan, I suppose, uh, by 2027. Okay, and we also have a story on the Ukraine war, and I just saw the headline on this, and I'm sorry, I'm so skeptical about peace, but Trump says he's close to ending Russia's war on Ukraine. All right. Trump called the Russian situation horrible and expressed hope for a settlement, citing 7,000 deaths last week alone. We settled 7 wars. We're close to settling an eighth, the president said. And I think we'll end up settling the Russian situation, which is horrible. 7,000 people last week died, by the way. Trump's comments follow his August 25 threat to decisively intervene in Ukraine if no progress toward peace occurs within 2 weeks. So, where did he say this? On September 6th, he described ending the Russia Ukraine war as far more complex than anticipated, while reiterating his claim of resolving 7 conflicts and expressing confidence in stopping the Russian invasion. On September 15, Trump publicly labeled Russia the aggressor for the first time. On September 18, Newsmax CEO and Trump ally Christopher Rudy said the president could get much more aggressive toward Russia for continuing the war against Ukraine. Trump also noted on October 7th that talks with Russian President Putin on Ukraine have been tougher than those on Gaza, where a deal is very close. And then well, uh, read the original article in New Voice of Ukraine, but this is a Ukrainian source, so I'm skeptical of it. But uh, come on, we don't want to. All right, okay, all right, okay. They wanted me to watch an advertisement before I could see the article. So we just get out of that. All right, let's see what's going on in Breitbart's world. Um, Share these headlines with you. Okay, Hamas agrees to ceasefire in Gaza. Hostages released this weekend? Question mark. Trump says it's historic and unprecedented. Okay. And Fetterman, the senator from Pennsylvania, congratulates Trump on historic peace plan. And European Union ambassador to the U.S. Says that EU-U.S. relations going in the right direction under Trump and under also von der Leyen. And Trump says he will designate Antifa as a foreign terrorist organization during his meeting with independent journalists. Okay. This guy. The anti-tariff paper accidentally makes the case for Trump's tariffs. He may go to Egypt this weekend. Okay. Okay, and then well, praise God for this. And this is the leftist billionaire who lives in Shanghai, the guy on the right, right? And he is from China. He is funding a number of anti-American and well, very anti-American efforts. The Chinese government records list left-wing billionaire Neville Roy Singham as corporate officer for ThoughtWorks Beijing, funded groups linked to anti-ICE protests, pro-Hamas college encampments, and so yeah, if yeah, this is one evil man, that is for sure. He's kind of a mini George Soros, I guess you can say. American Beverage Association obesity epidemic can be fixed with free market innovation. That's interesting. Let's take a look at that. I think by listening to the concerns of parents and experts and using free market innovation to address health issues. Mhm. Speaking on how beverages like soda, seltzer, and sports drinks can fit into the Make America Healthy Again movement at a Wednesday morning Breitbart News event, Keene emphasized how the private sector can contribute to President Donald Trump's and Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s efforts to by providing consumers education and options. But the diet drinks are actually counterproductive. I think a number of people have pointed this out. That people say, "Oh, look, it's diet; it has fewer calories, so therefore I can drink more than I would the one with all the calories." And so in the end, they wind up consuming more calories than they would if they were just uh, drinking the uh, high calorie drink. All right. This is my favorite low calorie beverage. This will make America healthy again. Right. But I think probably the profit margin on these things is not very high. I think that's, yeah. No, it's interesting. I went to I went with Kuchini one time to a factory in Korea where Ilhwa was bottling carbonated, what do they call it? Carbonated, water. And their selling point was that the carbonation is in the spring. It comes out of the earth carbonated. And so I asked a question to one of the executives there. I said, "So you just take the carbonated water and put it in a bottle?" And he said, "No." He said, he said, "Korean law does not allow them to do that. You cannot bottle water without first processing it in some way or another. So therefore, therefore he says we have to we have to extract the carbonation first and then put it back into the water in order to comply with Korean law." So uh, uh, government regulation, right? That's crazy. It's crazy. So I wonder if something similar is going on with these the carbonated water that we get in restaurants, whether it actually comes out of the ground like that, and then have to take carbonation out and then put it back in. I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think probably it's not just Korea that's doing that crazy thing. Anyway, all right. So the beverage industry always looking how to increase their profit margin and or their total profit, and they're trying to do that. Okay, let's see here. We got more stuff about Chicago and so forth. Former FBI Director James Comey pleads not guilty. Okay, okay, all right, and let's go to the Epic Times. What is this about? Seattle mayor suing Christians or blames Christians for violent clash with left-wing agitators. Okay, Um, let's go to the Epic Times here. See what's going on there. Tum. Okay. Okay, we got the Hamas deal, and there's a photograph of what Gaza looks like, or at least part of it there. So, CDC Immunization Safety Office should be separated from vaccine promotion, according to national academies. Pandemic communications sometimes blurred safety monitoring with vaccine promotion, one expert said. Yeah, that sounds right. An acting CDC director calls on manufacturers to break the MMR vaccine into separate shots. And here, Virginia's race for governor. Right. Okay. Yeah, President Trump undergoing a medical exam at Walter Reed Hospital. His last one was in April, so this is about 6 months now. And I guess that's pretty normal for a guy his age. And, but I did notice that when this news came out, the stock market and just about all the assets began to fall, and that's pretty normal. You know, people who invest are pretty sensitive to the health of the American president because if something does happen, then everything's going to crash, and so just for safety's sake, they want to take some profits and get out and wait to see how this turns out. So we'll see what the verdict is on his medical exam at Walter Reed, but I'm sure nothing's going to be wrong. All right, let's see here. Let's see. Let's look at some of these headlines. Sometimes I like to go to these leftist sites to see what they're saying. So Seattle sued after mayor blames Christians for violent clash. Okay. And TSMC, that's the Taiwanese semiconductor company, faces uncertainty as Taiwan's energy security reportedly comes under Chinese threat. Trump greenlights Alaska's Amber Road to boost U.S. rare earth supply. Ambler Road. So let me see. I'm interested to know where this actually is, um, because Father, of course, has talked about uh, the Bering Strait and connecting the Bering Strait with Russia. And part of the problem, actually, one of the big problems with doing that, is that there are no roads leading to the Bering Strait on either side. Let's see here. Ambler Road. Where's the Ambler? Here it is. I see. Okay. So it's going to go from, let's see here, from here I see. So, and the Bering Strait is this peninsula here, Wales, and then Fairbanks is here. So, and the project location is here. I see. Okay. The red, I see. Okay. Well, yeah. Well, that's good. That's good. I want to see this view image. Okay. Let's see if we can view the image. Okay. Yeah. So this is Wales, Alaska. Here, that's the closest point to Russia. And so, and here, this is a river. This is the Kubik River here, and this is the Yukon River. Okay, Yukon River, and they're going to connect this to here, And I think these must be roads here. So you see that in this area, there are virtually no roads. I mean, I see something here, but um, most of the time like for here right now, I went to the village of Wales here, and the only way to get there was by plane. And they get a barge once a year that brings in their fuel and stuff. But if someone wants to go there, they have to go there by plane. And the landing strip there does not have a tower, so you just have to land on your own. And if the weather moves in, then you're stuck there for a week or 2 weeks, depending on what the weather feels like doing. So it's very, very remote. And so maybe but it doesn't look like it's going to be a big advance towards uh, the Bering Strait project, but I guess it's I guess it's a small advance. Mhm. All right, let's see what's going on here. Okay. Trump wants a Nobel Prize. He'll learn Friday if his campaign paid off. Uh, uh, I hope he doesn't attach too much value to that. The Nobel Peace Prize has become so politicized recently that I don't think he should even try for it. Trump's trillions tariff claim. Here's what Treasury data actually shows. Okay, Modi says Starmer brings new energy to UK ties with India. All right. Uh, Myanmar civil war festers and the world looks on. And President Trump warns left-wing violence, Antifa-inspired terror is escalating. Yeah, it is, isn't it? Yeah. And the left seems to be getting more and more desperate. And I think um, the shutdown in the government also is part of that. Schumer seems to be hoping that by becoming more aggressive, he can fight off a primary challenge from AOC in the senatorial election that's coming up. And well, if that's the case, then I think we're in for some trouble. But the left does seem to be becoming more and more desperate um, because they can see that as things are going now, they're going to lose next year's midterm election. So they have to try something to inspire their base and also to incite escalation from President Trump. I think that's what they're looking for. And so they secretly are happy to see the National Guard being put out and the military being put into cities because they believe that this is going to help them in the election. But we'll see. I think probably the opposite is the case. I think if President Trump can get the crime under control, then people will say, hey, look, he's doing stuff that Democrats have not been doing for us for the last 50 years. We've been voting for them for 50, 60 years now. They haven't done anything about the crime. But now President Trump is doing that. So perhaps President Trump can actually increase support um, between now and next year, November. Just before we leave, shall we check the Rasmussen? I don't check this every day, but so 48. So okay, so he's back into his range. So he managed to get back into this range. He was a bit out of the range, below the range yesterday, but now he's back into it. You know, second, okay, 48, 46, 47, and then 48. Okay, and the strongly oppose approve is a bit down, and strongly approve is a bit up. So things look like they're basically going the way they always have been going. All right, so that's about all I have time for today. Sorry that the um, the quality is not as good as even worse than it usually is. That's because we don't have a tech team. I'm doing this by myself, and I will be for the next several days because of the event that's going on in Pennsylvania, which all of you know about. And I'll be uploading this to YouTube so that people can watch it later. God bless, Godspeed. May His kingdom come quickly. And I will now end the stream.